Has everyone heard of Bingo Card Creator?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, great. So for the few of you who did not raise your hand to go, yeah, this is Patrick McKenzie, who came from Japan to be here with us today, and also his friend's wedding. I don't know, that must have had nothing to do with it. Who started his independent software selling career with a bingo card creating tool for teachers. And because that is such a tough market, he became an absolute whiz at SEO, automatic content marketing, all above board types of stuff, conversion optimization, and now he's using that to help all kinds of other people also earn more money, including himself. And what was the quote that you had about your life cycle emails? That someone said that, how much did it make, one email make them?
There's a few different quotes I could give there. There was one company used not my lifecycle email course, but the marketing material for the lifecycle email course, forwarded it to his director of biz dev, and the biz dev guy closed a $500,000 sale 2 days later.
From the free content you gave away to promote your course?
From the sales pitch.
Right,
yeah.
Right. So that should give you an idea of just the expertise that this man represents. And so give a warm welcome to Patrick McKenzie, please. And you need markers. Thank you.
Howdy, everybody. Thanks for having me. So I want to start with the question, why are we here? And there's a lot of ways we can interpret that question. There's the classical theological one, but I only have 40 minutes, and I'm not going to rewrite the previous 2,000 years of Western civilization in that time. So we'll go to two smaller reasons. One is, what incredibly unlikely series of happy events happened such that I'm able to come here today? And I want to give a shout out to a gentleman named Brian Plexico. Have any of you ever heard of him? Okay, so Brian Plexico, back in 2006, released a skeet shooting score application that none of you have ever heard of. It required you to take a laptop out to where do people do skeet shooting? I don't know, it's illegal in my country. Out to the range. Okay, so you take your laptop out, you project things that look like birds, and then project things that look like bullets towards the birds, and if they hit the things that look like birds, you get points. And apparently, it's difficult for people to count on one hand and shoot shotguns on the other, so they needed skeet shooting scoring software. So Brian Plexico released this skeet shooting scoring software, and he sold $2,000 of it, which the world did not long note or remember. But Brian Plexico wrote a blog post about this that I read in 2006, and this was the first time it pinged onto my consciousness that, wow, you could actually run a software business as a side thing, not have to quit your job and not have to go to the Valley and get venture capital, and not have to be the super uber genius that Joel Spolsky was, because I've been reading his blog for a while. A real normal person just like you could do this. So why do I come all the way from Japan to Bacon Biz Conf to talk to all of you guys? Because I feel indebted to that one blog post. And also because I think that we can all help each other realize that this is an achievable thing. And Amy builds me up as some sort of internet celebrity or genius. And I won't lie, I am kind of intelligent. But this is this is absolutely something that all of you guys can be doing. So I think there's kind of two audiences in this talk. Well, one audience, but there's people at different stages of your business career inside of it. Some of you might not have launched your product yet. Some of you have businesses at varying levels of success and are looking for what gets you to the next level. So we're going to start the talk with a bit of the background of my business to kind of give you guys who think that you haven't launched yet, you might not think you can do this, to tell you that you absolutely can. And we'll go into the practical stuff for those of you who have businesses that you can turn around and use in your businesses tomorrow. Most of it's going to be specific to SaaS businesses because that's really where my heart and soul is. But for the info product stuff, we had that talk earlier, and we might talk later about it in that little interview thing. Anyhow, if you want to follow on your phones that you aren't using, it's that. So, Bingo Card Creator, who knew, right? So, Bingo Card Creator has several 100,000 users, largely gathered out of the United States, 3 million or so elementary school teachers. I've got several thousand paying customers over the years. And it all started with a 1,000 line of code Java Swing app back in 2006 that I put together in 7 days of work. and a budget of $60, of which I spent $56.83. Largest single line item on the budget was faxing a contract to eCellerate in America. The 7-Eleven charged me $17 for that. If any of you are thinking that you don't have enough money to start a business, you totally do. But if I was going to redo it again, I would spend a little bit more money on getting like a professional web design rather than trying to hack it together myself. But neither here nor there. The reason I want to talk about Bingo Card Creator very briefly is to show that I absolutely did not start out as overwhelming Superman. You can see this is my, is this the red button? Red, green button. Green button does not flash on screen. All right. So, laser pointer v1.0. So you can see salaries in Japan are not so awesome. The first year of Bingo Card Creator, I was planning on eventually selling as much as $200 a month. I blew through that thing in the first month, but it basically did not move the needle at all. And I just started trying things out, learned about A/B testing, learned about search engine optimization, learned about AdWords. And over the years, as a part-time little 5-hour-a-week hobby, I had quit World of Warcraft to run this hobby. I used to run a raid guild of 60 members or so, which is the largest enterprise I've ever been in charge of. It was a whole lot more work for much worse loot, let me tell you. So yeah, just gradually grew it to the point. And sometime in here, my day job transitioned from a very cushy job at a prefectural technology incubator where I was expected to translate English for people who never needed English translations done. So I spent a lot of time reading on the internet, to working as a Japanese salaryman, which means that the company owns you body and soul, and you spend 12 to 16 hours a day, and then crash overnight, and then do it again the next day. And I was really not feeling it. And then about 2009-ish, I had a big insight one day. I had spent something like 19 hours at the office. Got out of the office at 2 a.m., ate dinner at the all-night Denny's. Checked my email because Bingo Card Creator emails could happen at any time on my Kindle because we didn't have iPads back in those days. Then I went to sleep for 5 hours, woke up the next morning, and checked my email again prior to heading out to the office for another 7:30 meeting the following day. And I realized that I made more money while sleeping with Bingo Card Creator than I had at the 19-hour day at the office, even counting overtime. I was like, why am I still in this day job anymore? And couldn't come up with any good reason for that, so I quit. So what happened since then? In 2010, I launched a new product called Appointment Reminder, and I made one big mistake about this, which I want to tell you all about. Everybody knows Peldy, right? The gentleman behind Balsamic Mockups. So Peldy and I have been internet buddies for a while. I knew him before he was internet famous, and he knew me before I was internet famous. But I told him about my idea for Appointment Reminder, which makes appointment reminding phone calls and SMS messages and emails to the clients of professional services businesses. And he said, is it your passion in life to optimize the scheduling of small doctor's offices? And I said, oh, heck no, but it's going to be a great business. It's like, dude, stop now, do not go forward. You will get bored, and this will be much harder than it needs to be. And I did not listen to Peldy. I encourage you all to listen to Peldy. Find a community, find a problem space, find an industry that you are really passionate about, because we just discussed this in 4 minutes and 14 seconds these several years here. But if I had not been enthralled with a certain aspect of the business, that's a lot of time. I've been doing this for 8 years now. If you get bored of it, then the business dies effectively. So pick something that you can really sink your teeth into. The thing I sunk my teeth into in Bingo Card Creator, I used to be a teacher. I love teaching. I love helping teachers, but it is not my passion in life. But the thing I became passionate about with Bingo Card Creator was the mechanics of optimizing the business. So that's what we're going to be talking about a little later today. So find something you can be passionate about. I really recommend it. Okay, so since quitting the day job, by the way, I don't show appointment reminder numbers on these graphs just because I nurse maybe I will, maybe I won't ideas of someday taking investment for appointment reminder, and it's better to keep it under your belt. And that's not English, is it? Sorry, I'm from Japan. So anyhow, the Bingo Card Creator grew while I was still at the day job. After I quit the day job, people who had heard of me on the internet, because I had been blogging over this entire course of time, said, hey, all that all that stuff that you've learned about marketing software products for bingo card creators seems to be pretty generalizable. Why don't you try it with our products? Joel Spolsky memorably said that, oh, Patrick's become something of an SEO guru learning about bingo cards, and now that he's applying it to something that isn't totally bullshit, it'll be pretty useful. Soft-spoken as always, right? So I did a little work for Fog Creek, and that seems to have worked out for both parties. Then I did consulting work for a few other pretty well-renowned software companies, and the WildBit folks among them. And anyhow, I had a few pretty good years of it. 2012 was the best year of my life, one major reason, because I got married to Rudiko McKenzie over there. So this is kind of a totally self-indulgent slide because that is the best I will ever look, but I also always want to take a minute out of speeches like this, especially I think it'll connect to this audience as bootstrappers. One of the reasons we get into this versus doing the corporate wage slave job or trying to go to Silicon Valley and roll the dice is that we want to be able to kind of construct the life we want to be living. And so, your business will be important to your life, your career will be important to your life, but it isn't nearly as important as the rest of your life, as your family, your friends, being involved with your community, et cetera, et cetera. So definitely do keep a balance there. And remember that it's a means to the end, it isn't the end itself. Anyhow, so the more boring part about 2012 was, so while I took 3 months off of work and did nothing but answer emails, maybe once every 3 days or so, to plot the wedding things, because when you do weddings in 2 continents, it's kind of, ugh. Okay, so if you have to do that, you have to do that. But if you don't have to do that, I strongly suggest not doing it. So I took 3 months off work and just stopped development, stopped answering requests for proposals, stopped anything other than routine email support. And sales kind of exploded. Why? Because I had put, I kind of got to there being a season to sow and a season to reap. The previous years I had been sowing kind of automated systems that worked without my involvement. And 2012, they kind of started clicking together through some efforts of my own, but mostly just a natural growth in things. Talk a little about them later. But yeah, 2012, pretty good. By the way, not the main focus of this point, but you can see the main ingredient in the revenue mix last year of these 3 products was the consulting. My current revenue for consulting in 2013 is $0. I quit it recently. Ask me why later, but at the party when I'm not on camera, because the consulting client that drove me out of consulting has a legal department which is better funded than the North Korean military and twice as vicious. So I largely think that there's basically 3 stages for a bootstrapping business. Some of you are probably in all of them right now. There's the stage where you don't have a product or customers yet, don't really have an audience, you might not even have an idea of where you want to take it. Then there's the point where you've got a product, you've got some customers, but it isn't quite hitting your financial goals yet. So maybe if a goal in your own business is to quit the day job and transition into your product full-time, you might be getting, say, $2,000, $3,000 a month of sales, and if that's not enough for you to live on, you want to get it to the next stage. And then the third stage of a bootstrapping business is where it's achieving all of your financial goals, and the big question for you is, where do we take it from here? My advice is largely going to be specific to the people who are in stages 2 or 3. So if you don't have a product yet, don't worry anything about A/B testing, don't worry anything about conversion optimization. Your only 2 tasks are talk to customers and produce something for them. And if you don't have 3,000 visitors a month, I will tell you your entire A/B testing strategy is throw out everything you ever read about A/B testing, don't even bother reading blog posts about it, talk to customers, ship stuff to them, sell it like 1 copy at a time until you get, until your teaching and your email lists and your publishing content have gotten you to 3,000 visitors a month of recurring traffic, because otherwise it's just a waste of your time. But for folks like the wild bits with large amounts of traffic, or for even folks who just have modest amounts of traffic, like you can get a couple hundred visitors to routinely come to a blog post, then you can start thinking about your conversion optimization strategy. And I was going to talk in very, very kind of hand-wavy ways about, oh, you should improve your calls to action, and then you can improve the colors of your buttons and whatnot. But I've been at that presentation a lot before when it's delivered by myself or other people. And it feels kind of boring without an actual business to focus on. And I've presented on my business probably about 30 times over the years, and honestly, I've said almost everything I ever cared to say about bingo cards. So I thought I'd pick another business and show you what we would do with that business to optimize for them. And Amy and Thomas were graceful enough to, whoops, I'm getting ahead of myself. Amy and Thomas were graceful enough to volunteer Freckles. So we're going to be using Freckle as sort of a way to dive into the meat and nitty-grittiness of optimization. So what are we optimizing for? We're optimizing for a formula which I miscopied. So sorry, I'll tell you what. This is the fundamental SAS equation. Traffic, the sum, your revenue, your profits, whatever you want, the main driver for the business is the sum over any space you want to think of, like over all the customers, over all the marketing channels, over all the whatever, of the amount of traffic you get times your conversion rate through your funnel times, and this is the bad part, your average revenue per user, which means what you charge the average person on a given period of time. And I wrote 1 minus churn. Here it's actually 1 minus survivorship, which equals churn. So you can copy down that one if you need to. The kind of agony and ecstasy of running SaaS businesses is if you can easily manipulate traffic, that excuses everything else. Like if you are really good at search engine optimization, you need absolutely no other skills to successfully run a SaaS business, as Bingo Card Creator might prove. But that one's really hard to explain, so we're going to be talking more about the conversion rate and the other aspects here. A little less about churn in this presentation. Unfortunately, conversion rate, while it is easily within all of your capabilities to optimize, it takes a couple months to see the results from. And there's something you can do to average revenue per user, which tends to produce easy and obvious results. So I have to put in every presentation, and it is charge more. So actually, when I was flying from Nagoya to Philadelphia, to Detroit, and there was an intermediary stop. So my iPhone ran out of batteries. I told my wife, Rudiko, my iPhone is out of batteries, and she looks over at me. She's like, you should charge more. So, man, I'm a broken record on this one, but I'm a broken record because it works so well. So this is the launch plan for Appointment Reminder. It launched at $9, $29, $79, and an enterprise plan, which was basically Call Me, because I couldn't actually provision that account back then. And it changed that later to $29, $79, $199. Got rid of the $9 plan because, like we talked about earlier, your lowest paying customers are pathological. They have higher churn rates. They have unreasonable expectations for your product. I had a dental office which was on the $9 plan, which asked me to cut them a refund check because they hadn't used 60% of their quota. So could I please send the dental office a check for $5.40? I asked the office manager, has the dentist ever written a check for $5.40 to anyone for any reason if they were unsatisfied with their teeth? And she's like, no, that's crazy. I'm like, yes, that is indeed crazy. So I no longer solicit the business of anyone who wants to pay $9. Something that I was routinely hearing when I was at the 79 corresponded to 300 appointments a month. And a lot of people said, wow, it only goes up to 300 appointments a month. It can't possibly handle 500 appointments a month, right? Which is the way non-software people think of software. Now, everyone else in the room is like, okay, that's clearly a variable he has hard-coded in somewhere. He can bump it up to any number he wants, less than like 1 million, without changing anything else, right? You are correct. But you think in a way that non-software people don't think. So just adding the $200 option that went up to 1,000 did this to my revenue. Here's the month before I added it. Here's the month where I added it. Here's the month after. So this is like arbitrarily scaled to $1 equals my revenue back in like, what was it? May of 2011. So added basically like 2 full increments of my revenue with just that one change. And that was in a 2-month period where I was doing literally no other work because it was during my wedding/honeymoon. I was not even checking my email that month. My designer just pushed that to the page, and then bam, revenue exploded. And it even exploded because actually August of 2012 was the purge of August. I went through my accounts and like closed the account of anybody who hadn't actually used the system in a year, because I hate taking money from people who aren't getting value from things. And so just lopped off 25% of the accounts. By the way, non-use of SaaS services is a real thing. Any of you who run SaaS companies are probably going to have to deal with how you want to treat that. My thought was, I'll close the accounts and then reinstate them if anyone complains. Surprisingly, some people did complain. It's like, whoa, dude, why'd you go closing my account like that? Because you hadn't logged in 16 months. Well, I was getting around to it. Okay, so we're going to do the 30-minute consulting engagement for Amy and 25-minute consulting engagement for Amy and Thomas's Freckle product. Freckle is time tracking. Used to focus on freelancers. These days, it's focusing more on firms.
You can run over, by the way, if you want.
Ooh, yeah. So.
Free consulting. Talking.
Yeah.
Yes, but also I've said it for other people today. We love you. Keep talking.
So. The first thing we do prior to like digging into what we can optimize is to get a clear sense of what the funnel is for the business. And the funnel for their business is the same as the funnel for virtually every other SaaS business. There's some notion of getting the prospects into the free trial, the pre-sign-up step we often call it. Getting the trialers onboarded into the product, which means getting them to the point where they have successfully used the core interaction once. For Freckle, that's they've actually like logged time at least once. Getting a trialer, they're not just onboarded, they're engaged with the product, where they're actually getting value out of it in their day-to-day business life. So for Freckle, that means they've transitioned their like sole source of truth for time tracking into Freckle. And then turning those trialers into customers. So everybody knows what funnel means, right? There's like some big pool of prospects at the top, and then as each step goes on, you get less and less people to survive through the funnel. And then you get some happy event at the bottom called conversion. So each of those stages in the funnel is actually a little funnel in isolation. Like the pre-sign-up step, where people are not in the free trial yet. There's multiple stages they can go. They can go to the front page and then look at the plans page and then go to the pricing page. Go to the sign up for the free trial page. And then only if they click through that are they in the trial. So there are funnels within funnels. And so we're going to be looking at those funnels within funnels in a bit of granular detail. Why do we do this analysis of what the funnels are like prior to digging in and just getting started working? Because if you don't, you can waste your time on doing stupid things. Here is a thing which is stupid in Freckle's instance, but will work for a lot of B2B companies. So I do it with almost every B2B SaaS company. There's a point in a B2B SaaS where after you've signed up for the free trial, you have to invite your team into using the product, because typically B2B SaaS, there's some sort of collaborative thing involved, and it gets more useful the more people you have using it. If you don't invite your team into it, it's highly likely that you stop using it at the end of the month. So you have to be careful about the copywriting for sending out an invitation. Because if you have copywriting like, you're invited to Freckle, that seems, from the perspective of an engineer working at the company, if they just get an invitation out of blue saying, you're invited to use Freckle, they might say, well, that doesn't mean anything to me, and just delete it. But if you said, your boss Bob requests that you use Freckle for time tracking, then they're going to feel, oh, I sort of have a social obligation towards the guy who signs my paychecks to actually do what he tells me to on a fairly frequent basis. So I'm actually going to click this sign-up link and start using Freckle. So that's an easy automatic win for almost every B2B SaaS company. So I was about to say, Amy and Thomas, you should get on implementing that, like right now. And then I asked Thomas, say, how many people who receive this email don't actually act on it? And that wasn't a number we tracked anywhere, but we ran some arbitrary SQL queries, and turns out the answer is 1.5%. 98.5% of the people who get this email actually sign into Freckle and use it. So trying to optimize that number is just a total waste of time, versus we can look at other places where 30% of the people are getting through the funnel and try to get that 30 up to 40. And since things are multiplicatively effective, that's like raising the revenue growth rate by 33%, rather than trying to oh God, we're going to work for weeks and craft the best invitation email ever and get 98.57% to survive through that step. So don't waste your time. Look at the numbers first. Okay, so here's the pre-trial sign-up flow for Freckle. You go to the homepage, it's nice, it's pretty. It sends you to the pricing page. You pick which plan you like, and then you put in your details, and as soon as you hit go, which is somewhere off the bottom of the screen here, you have a Freckle account. Everybody probably has a very similar thing. This is quite standard in the SaaS industry. So we're going to dig into each of these steps and see what we can do better. So when we look at the numbers, these numbers, by the way, are from Kissmetrics. I like Kissmetrics. It's a bit on the expensive side for bootstrappers who don't have revenue yet. You can do it all with arbitrary SQL queries or MS Excel if you want to. But it produces nice, beautiful graphs that I can use in presentations, so I always suggest it. So of people who visit the homepage, only about 15% or so get to viewing the plans page. That's a very, very low number relative to many other companies I've worked with. And so improving that, as long as we get the same caliber of customer to get to the plans page, is pretty much an automatic win for Freckle. Maybe if we double it, that doesn't necessarily double sales because just getting people to the plans page doesn't move a needle at the business. But in general, things that get people longer in the funnel will tend to have some sort of increase later down the line, in general. There's exceptions. Just to give you a comparable for this, by the way, appointment reminder, I filed the serial numbers off, but 38% of the people who go to the homepage actually get to the plans page. The main reason is different design things that we do, and I'm going to go into what Freckle does design-wise that I would do a bit differently. So if they were to move their view the plan page conversion up to where mine is, it's 250% difference. And my guesstimate from finger to the wind of having done this at a few companies is that that probably increases their sales growth rate by between 20% and 100%, which is obviously very worthwhile to do, right?
Understatement of, you're the master of understatement, but that's the most understatement ever.
Yeah. So I went into one company once and was reporting to their CEO, yeah, I thought I was going to increase our gross revenues by 100%. I'm sorry, I failed. It's like, well, define failure. I'm like, I only increased gross revenue by 15%. He schooled me on the way business actually works because that's normally like what they do in a year. Anyhow, so we're going to look at the front page and see what we can do about the front page such that we get more people onto the plans page. So we're going to pick high-value targets. What is a high-value target? It's something that a lot of people see and they interact with, and it's likely to influence their decision on whether to go to the next page or not. For example, what is not a high-value target? There's some wonderful copy down here, but we know nobody reads on the internet. It's not actually true, but statistically speaking, only 20% of the audience or less is going to actually read everything on this page. So if they're making the decision after 5 seconds to hit the back button and not go onto the plans page, it's probably not because they didn't love this line, KISS configuration goodbye, that's down here in normal font way down on the page. They're probably responding overwhelmingly to the headline, H1 here, to this image, and to the actual mechanism for getting to the plan page. And we're going to go through those in turn and see what we can do. So at this point, some people might say, OK, we can A/B test headers against each other and just start, give me 2 sentences, we'll throw them up there, see which one wins. I don't love doing that because that's a great way to chase down a rabbit hole. Before you start throwing things at the wall, you should try to get into the head, build a mental model of the mind of your prospective customer and figure out, OK, I'm trying to put myself in your shoes. Why aren't you giving this the time of day to at least see how much it costs or see what the plans are like? Maybe my hypothesis is that you don't understand what Freckle is. You don't understand Freckle as time tracking. Why might you think that? Because goodbye administrivia doesn't necessarily tell you in the first 10 seconds you're looking at it that it's time tracking. So if that was the problem, if Amy was hearing that sort of feedback from customers, or she was shoulder surfing people and they clicked back and she said, psst, psst, why? And I don't really know if this is for me. I don't know what it does. Then what will we do headline-wise to address that? Here's some we could test. And we'd probably test them against each other using A/B testing or something. Online time tracking with Freckle. It's simple. It's to the point. It's very obvious what it does then. You will often find that simple, to the point, and obvious beats the heck out of more florid copy. Like goodbye administrivia sounds like something that director of marketing might really, really love. And the director of marketing gets raffle stomped by 17-year-olds with decent sense of the English language a lot, in my experience. Also, you note that one has pretty nice SEO benefits, right? If you have online time tracking in the H1, you're much more likely to rank for online time tracking. That might or might not be a factor for your business. It probably wouldn't really move the needle at Freckle, to be honest. Their primary customer acquisition strategy is people who come into the Amy/Thomas ecosystem, and then at some point they look for Freckle by name because they've heard such great things about it. Another thing you can offer, frictionless time tracking, which both says what it does, time tracking, and gives them a reason to, something to catch their attention with. Because if I say that it's frictionless, or any other very descriptive adjective that gets your mind thinking, you start to think of all the painful things that you have done in time tracking in the past, how it's like a waste of your time, just boring drudge work. And you might be intrigued enough to think, frictionless, why is it frictionless? And then actually read the rest of the page where they tell you. Or here's another thing, time tracking with 42% less suck. So apparently in all of the classical marketing texts that are taught at colleges, they tell you to beat the heck out of any sort of personality that you put in your advertising copy. Unfortunately, that doesn't work very well. I ran a World of Warcraft guild for a couple of years. I'm a geek, I own it. I often talk like a semi-immature geek when I write copy because it generally tends to connect with my audience. Find out what works for your audience, whether it's informal diction or the more classical stylings of a Harvard-educated professional or whatever works for you, and try to get that feeling for the company, the vibe, your voice, off early and often in the copy. By the way, if I just told you this product is more effective than the time tracking you are using right now, that your perception of how credible that claim is probably less than if I told you it's 42% less suck, because numbers for some reason are trusted more than claims that don't have numbers about it. Now if you think about this for 5 seconds, you might think, wait, there's no objective measurement for how many units of suck a time tracking tool might have. And you can even play with that in your copy, like asterisks, according to our mom, whatever. But if you surveyed people with the before and after, their perceived trust would go up with the suck headline. That's a thing you should always keep in mind about numbers. Another thing about numbers, for some reason, numbers that are not round, like not 10% or 5% or 25%, but like 43% are perceived as more credible than numbers which are rounded. It's like, oh, if you know how to understand a rounding function on your calculator, you must be evil educated scientist trying to trick me. But if you just pick a number out of thin air and end it with a 7, then clearly you're on my side. I don't know why that works, but all the marketers will tell you that it works. So, don't make up numbers out of thin air if they're going to be consequential numbers. But if you do have a number that you can say, people who use our tool spend 47% less man hours on this task, don't round that to 50. It's just against your interests, even though that's 50% sounds like more in isolation. Okay, so what else could be going wrong with the headline? Maybe the problem isn't the customer doesn't know what Freckle is. They just don't understand what Freckle does for them. Time tracking, right? I get it. I do time tracking. I don't know if I spend the next week of my life learning how to use your tool, how doing time tracking with Freckle makes my business better than it is right now. So if that's our hypothesis, what do we tell the customer? Early, at the very tip of our relationship with them in the H1, that they should be giving Freckle the time of day. One option, bill more hours in less time. There's always 2 benefits that you can sell to any business you're selling to, and by the way, sell to businesses, not to, say, teachers, because teachers have no money and have very unreasonable expectations, and businesses have lots of money and very reasonable expectations. Businesses have one reasonable expectation in particular. It's anything that increases their revenue or reduces their costs, they are happy to pay money for. So if you can credibly promise that you are going to increase their revenue or reduce their costs, the sale is almost already made. So if you are, say, a consultancy, and you have to do time tracking because you bill your clients on an hourly basis, bill more hours with less time is that's a direct correlation to revenue for the consultancy. So that's a win for them. If you have a direct correlation to revenue or to reduce costs in your business, put it up front and center. Earn more money freelancing with less pain. This is, again, we're targeting the money thing. We're getting people to select here. And this actually is a selection that's a bit against their interest because they're trying to move from freelancers to multi-member firms who can afford to pay more. But just throwing this out there as an idea. You earn more money as a freelancer. If you are a freelancer, that headline kind of lights up synapses for you. Oh, I'm a freelancer. The rest of this might be relevant to me. I'll actually read the copy. And less painful. Honestly, that's a little overused these days because a lot of people say their software is it's less painful and easy to use, which has been overused to the point of death now that we're no longer all using MS Office and every SaaS company says we are easier to use than MS Excel. Smallest little clap, guys. But it's a benefit that you could potentially offer to them. Here's something. So one of the things I love about SaaS businesses is after you've run it for a little while, you have more data on your users than the Orwellian mini-true. So you can use that data to help out your own businesses. For example, in my business, I decrease people's no-show rate. I have a very good idea of how much I decrease their no-show rate by. So without telling any sort of lie whatsoever, you could credibly claim something in your H1 saying, bill 15 more hours next month. And again, it's a number. It sounds like a credible claim to the reader. If it sounds like an incredible claim, you can justify it in the first paragraph. Our customers tell us they bill 15 more hours the month after they start using Freckle because they rescue time. How did they rescue time? Because right now you're not charging all of the time you actually work. Then move into your sales copy. Another thing we'll go into more thoughts along that line later. Okay, all right, I understand what Freckle is. I understand why someone might want to use Freckle, but I don't know why I, in particular, would want to use Freckle. How does this connect to me? Ramit Sethi has an awesome quote. He says, we're living in a world of infinite choices right now. So if you're in a world of infinite choices, if something isn't made exactly for me, then I'm gone. So in a world of infinite choices with like 42 different time tracking tools you could try, why would Freckle be the best time tracking tool for me specifically? So how do you connect to them on a very visceral, emotional level early? A headline like, too much free in your freelancing? And then you can use a subhead like, Freckle helps you actually bill every hour you actually work. Because there are freelancers in the audience who think, oh man, there was that like 42-minute conversation that I had with Dave last week, but it never made it onto the sheet. And if it never makes it onto the sheet, it never makes it onto the invoice, and if it never makes it onto the invoice, I don't get paid. You think that sort of time leak happens all the time in my business. That's obnoxious, and I'm losing money because of it. So we connect to them on that emotional level about this thing they are missing. Another option. So freelancers and firms find Freckle fabulous. I know alliteration is discouraged after about 6th grade or so, because everyone's like, oh, 6th graders use that technique. But if you look at the data, people use this technique because it tends to draw attention really, really well. And if you want, you can put a lampshade on it. And I've got a lampshade here. Time tracking doesn't start with an F. Dang, we had something good going there. And then carry on with a jokey kind of semi-informal copy with the rest of your marketing materials or sales copy. Anything to, we're not exactly proposing marriage with the headline. We're just trying to get them to not click the back button. In most cases, who was it? I think Paul Graham said that the biggest enemy is never another startup. It's very, very rarely another company. It's generally, the biggest enemy of every company is the back button. Again, in the world of infinite choices, why you need to make early and often the case for paying more attention to you. Another way to get people to qualify for themselves, do you bill at least $25 an hour? Put any number you want in there. But the people who do will be like, oh yeah, that's exactly for me. And the people who don't might be a little defensive about that. It's like, what, I'm not good enough for your thing just because my bill rate is $24 an hour? So it'll get them reading. And then you can make an ROI-focused calculation on why they should start using your thing, which they actually do on the pricing page, and I think is a very good tactic. Okay. So that's all we're going to talk about with the H1 here, but I hope you've gotten some ideas that you can apply to your own businesses. Amy and Thomas do many things very right in Freckle. The design of the front page, not one of them. Fair? So if you remember back, looking at the design of the front page here. So if you click this, like all of the color that is not pink, you get taken to a product tour. And the product tour is actually a video. And the video, there's some very catchy music. I encourage you to all watch the video because the catchy music is catchy. And it shows off the various features of Freckle. but it doesn't really make a case for buying Freckle. And the video, it's like, doo-doo, catchy music, stops. And this is the screen it stops on. And we're smiling at Amy's wonderful mug, and we don't know how to go forward in our relationship with Freckle at all. And I went to Thomas, and I'm like, was there like an encoding problem? Where's the rest of the video? Because my expectation is that videos, stop with a call to action, or they stop with some notion of what I should do next, and it just didn't. So my guess is that they're losing a lot of people clicking on that very visually engaging element on the front. They go to the tour, they play the video, or they don't play the video because they can't play the video at work or whatever, and then boom, that's the end of the relationship. They hit the back button, they're gone. So we wouldn't do it that way. We should generally avoid poking holes in the funnel. We give people, always give them a clear next step that you want them to take in the relationship. On the front page, the clear next step is, ideally you would send them directly to the plans page, but if you want to send them to the tour, make sure the tour transitions directly into a sign up afterwards. Or if they're not ready for the sign up, transition them to an email newsletter. Get them within your ecosystem such that you can get in touch with them rather than losing them to the demon back button. Okay, so the conversion element on the front page is this big pink arrow, which the first 3 times I looked at this page, I thought there was actually no button to go to plans and pricing because the arrow looked like a visual kind of filigree rather than anything I could actually click on. And many things about this arrow are wrong. The placement of it, the color of it, the shape of it, and probably the call to action at see plans and pricing. Nobody woke up this morning and was like, you know what I want to do today? I'm going to go to work, and I'm going to see plans and pricing. So let's talk about how we can make that button a little better. First, buttons should look like buttons. When I was doing this slide, I looked at my buttons and was like, ooh, my buttons are terrible. But at least they look like buttons. Like this is a test you can do with any website you ever make. Put on a blur filter in Photoshop or whatever you use. I use paint.net. And see if you can still find the buttons on it, like what's clickable. You can find them here, right? It must be these rectangular looking things, right? We're socialized to think that rectangular things that have high color contrast with surrounding regions must be buttons and must be clickable. You can have a bit of, be nice to your users too. Some users who might not be quite so familiar with the internet might not know that that is a thing yet. So they might, click on things like, oh, pretty lady, click on pretty lady. And so we can infer something about their state of mind from click on pretty lady, right? They didn't click on pretty lady because they love hearing the mouse click sound. They wanted more information about how they can be like the pretty lady who's succeeding with appointment reminders. So I just dropped them to the plans page anyhow, which, no lie, that actually works. Okay, so if you do the, put on a motion blur test, can you find the button on this page? My first thought for the button would be this big blue thing, right? And you might click on the big blue thing and then get taken into the tour, which does not advance your relationship with the Freckled product. You totally missed the pink bar. So make your buttons big and easy to click. Somebody with limited familiarity with the English language told me in 2007 that Patrick always goes for the big orange pancake buttons. And I love that because I always do go for the big orange pancake buttons because they work so well. So generally, big button, looks like a button, nice and easy to click, and good on the copywriting. Let's talk about button copywriting. So there's a formula for buttons. It works for almost everybody, and I encourage you to use it pretty much any time you got an action. Ready? It is verb plus benefit plus, if you got the space for it, some mention of immediacy. Let's show you examples of that. Get started now. Classics are classics for a reason. A lot of people use things like create account or sign up now or whatnot for the button, but get started now promises value rather than pain. You're going to get started on whatever they've learned from the rest of your website is presumably a valuable activity for them. If you focus on the account or the sign up, you're focusing on the fact that, charge your money now, give us money now, or get into this bureaucratic relationship that you don't perceive value out of yet. So ignore that part of the offering and focus on what they're getting out of it rather than what you're getting out of it. Start tracking your time now. It's very benefits focused. If you're not tracking your time, start. One thing that this only really works if they know they have a problem with it. So do what's appropriate to your audience, and again, test the heck out of this. Try Freckle for free. Free is kind of a magic word in marketing. It works very well on button copy. If you have a free trial, don't hide the fact that you have a free trial. That sounds obvious, but a lot of people do it. I occasionally got emails for years saying, hey, can I try that for free? That's what the big try now button is on the homepage. It didn't say free. It's been free for the, oh yeah. You aren't telepathic. That is not how things work. So, make it very clear to your customers when you have a free trial or something that is indeed the offer. Start tracking your time. So, there's no reason that just because you have to have a nice snappy copy for the button that you can't have some sort of elaboration nearby it. That sort of elaboration is called microcopy. 37 Signals often does it in a hand-drawn font where they put a little arrow and say, it takes only 60 seconds or something. But you can do it however you like. Since I have no graphical skills and my handwriting looks like chicken scratch, I usually just put it directly under the button in a small restrained font. And the microcopy for this button might be, no, really, if you use Freckle, you will actually track your time. 45% of our customers tell us they track, and that Freckle was the first thing that actually got them to start using it, and maybe give them a little bit of elaboration if they want to do it. People will say, ooh, credible claim. I will click this button to see the next page. OK, so let's talk about the plans and pricing page. I know we all have one of these. I would encourage you, when you're talking about it to customers, not to call it the plans and pricing page, because plans and pricing does not make sales. This is if this guy was an employee of if this page was an employee of the company, he'd be one of your most important employees because he's the sales manager that is bringing, if you are doing a pure SMB business, he's bringing in 100% of the sales. This guy would be getting a massive commission. So make sure that when you're designing this page, you treat it like the important business lifting page that it is, which means important in terms of what you refer to it elsewhere on the site, important in terms of how much time you spend optimizing it, important in terms of how much time you spend testing it. Try Freckle for free, totally good in terms of an H1 for it. Although this page, if you didn't remember from the front page that Freckle did time tracking, you would find that information nowhere here. And if you didn't remember any of the sales points for Freckle from the front page, you would find none of them here. It's totally feature focused. Features don't sell software. Benefits sell software. So put the benefits on this page as well. So see these little buttons? These are obviously the buttons we want people to be clicking on to sign up. Again, you don't want to use the word sign up because sign up is ooh, bureaucratic stuff. Am I going to get charged for this right away? Many customers have a very interesting understanding of how the world works. All of us who have used SaaS before understand that we're going to click the sign up button and there's going to be a page. We get a little time to think about it, type in our credit card number, and then hit go. And as long as we don't hit go, nothing happens. Many of your customers don't have that background knowledge. They think that as soon as they click sign up, a lawyer is going to show up at their door with an invoice that they have to pay. So ease them into that transition if they need to be eased into it by telling them, yes, there is value behind this button, not immediate pain with a lawyer hounding you down for collection calls. Here's a good all-purpose button to use. Start with this plan. Starting is something they want to do right now. Also, you remember the kill objections talk from earlier? Man, I like that. Here's one objection somebody could have. I don't know what plan to pick. So make that either totally remove the choice. One thing WildBit did recently was they just have one plan that you start with, and they'll pick one for you later. Or start with this plan. You can get started with any of the plans, and then there's a reversible choice that has no consequences. If you decide you want a different one 3 days later, great, wonderful. You can explain that with copy, and very, very succinctly. Another problem with this page, analysis paralysis. So there's 5 different sign-up buttons I've got here. And as the perhaps user who is not as acquainted with this product as Amy, I don't understand which one is the best choice for me. And because I do not have that SaaS background, I might think this is a consequential choice that I have to get right, or my relationship with Freckle is ruined. So in lieu of picking a choice that might be wrong, I might decide to choose nothing and just go back button. So to get somebody over that hump, what do? Well, one thing we could do is just present less choices. You can have all the choices available. Just show a few of them. So what I did here, and this was a pre-existing page. I just did a little bit of tweaking to it. I just show their most expensive plan, their most popular plan, which is the freelancer one that's low, and then a medium plan that covers most of their clients. And if you wanted, you could put in a little text thing here. Were those plans not right for you? We have other ones. Click here. And the overwhelming majority of people will not actually click that, but it'll give you an option. Another thing you can do is if people get in touch with you via email, yeah, I didn't see one that worked for us, just give them a link straight to the right sign-in page. Say, sorry, we're testing some stuff. We're a small company. Nobody ever gets mad at that. Another thing this pricing page does, and I'm leaning on this too much. Another thing this pricing page does not so wonderfully is the right-hand bar. So, okay, take a look at the right-hand bar. You're going to get 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right. Can anyone tell me anything that was on the right-hand bar?
Don't forget every plan.
Was that on the right-hand bar?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Don't forget every plan. All right. So there was a big list of features, and none of them mattered to anybody here, and you don't recall any of them. They don't help drive that decision to do I click the proceed to the account screen button or not. So in general, less is more, and rather than a feature list, stomp the heck out of your most common objections. Like objection, what if I don't like it? Answer, we have a money-back guarantee. We don't want your money if you're not totally thrilled with this product. We've never accepted a penny from someone who wasn't satisfied. Objection, can I trust you? I'm going to be putting my data in this. It's data that my company relies on. What happens if you are a fly-by-night internet thing? It's like, we're not a fly-by-night internet thing. We've been doing this for years. We have 6,000 or whatever happy customers, including the likes of logo. Objection, is it worth the cost? Yes, so you'll receive easy, obvious ROI, and if you don't, we'll give you your money back. You can link in an ROI calculation, which they have elsewhere on the page. Say something from your user's experience, like most of our users most of our users on the medium plan charge more than 300 times what the medium plan costs, which is probably accurate. Objection, will my team use it? If I'm somebody in a business and I need to bring my team onto something, it is not just a software problem you're solving for me. There's also a social problem of onboarding my team and getting them to change the way they currently do things and adopt this thing. And if they don't, I can't use it. So you should say something like, your team will love this. You can even pull out stats that you have from the product. Like 98.5% of team members who start using Freckle actually start using it. Why? Because the experience is awesome. Let us tell you more. And give them a link that most people won't click. Okay, so the next and last page in the pre-sign-up funnel is the sign-up screen itself. How many people have mocked this up once in Ruby on Rails or whatever their thing of choice is, and as soon as you tested the Stripe integration, you could actually charge the credit card? That is the last thing that you have ever done with this page. I see hands going up timidly. You are not alone. I was looking at this. I'm like, I'm going to compare and contrast my page with Amy's and show what I'm doing better. And I'm making the same bloody mistakes. So, all right. Again, we got whiteness over here. We're not making any sale for Freckle on this page. Continue telling them. Here are your objections. Boom, 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 boom. I'm stomping all over your objections. Anything that is on the page that does not stomp on an objection does not need to be on this page. For example, you will receive an email with a receipt each time your credit card is charged. We do not accept other forms of payment like PayPal, IPOs, or POs or checks. They probably don't accept IPOs either. Yeah. So, does that need to be on this page? Is it going to make a sale for this? No. It might prevent an email once in a blue moon to the customer support thing, but answering emails is cheap, so get rid of that. Enter password again. Is somebody's objection to adopting Freckle? I think I might type my password wrong, and I'm kind of scared about that. No customer in the entire world thinks that, so never ask for a password confirmation. If they get it wrong, they can click the easy reset password feature that you've all implemented. Other than that, much of it is pretty good. So that's just the first pre-sign-up funnel. We could talk in a lot of detail about other funnels, but unfortunately, I can't be here for the entire day. I would encourage you to look at one thing that Freckle does really, really well. It's their first run experience, also called the onboarding process, where they're taking a user, they've just signed up for the free trial. It's like, okay, here's what we do, and here's why it matters. Actually, Freckle does a really good job at explaining, here's what we do. Like they walk you through, here's how you can track time in it. It's very easy. The UI is wonderful. You'll love it. It's very quick to use. And they actually have you like push buttons and see the results in the UI. That's called an in-application tour. I really recommend them. They work very, very well for many of my customers. Unfortunately, Freckle doesn't tie that to the next step, which is after showing what you do, like tell them explicitly in the tour while you're guiding them why it matters to them. This is something that if you've ever taught before, you'll realize this. When you're in like teacher-student mode with someone and you're guiding them, like maybe hunched over the laptop or whatever it is, they tend to trust anything you tell them in teacher-student mode because that is our default method of interaction with teachers. So after you're teaching them about the things that you certainly know, like what buttons to push on your interface, you should tell them what changes it's going to make in their business as a result of that. Because when they're in that teacher-student interaction with you, they are more likely to trust that representation than the exact same representation made by the exact same people, but on the marketing site. One of my consulting clients phrased it as, people always trust engineers more than marketers and salesmen. Who knew? Anyhow, so that's that. Take a run through that if you want to see how it works. Many of the better put together SaaS companies, I have one these days. Fog Creek is one these days that I wrote. I think 37 Signals probably has one. Take a look at it. For those of you who are doing B2B SaaS, one little micro tip for tours. At the end of a tour, always ask people explicitly. We're always giving them the next step of their relationship to us. In B2B SaaS, the next step of your relationship after you've figured out how to use the product is almost always onboarding your team. So explicitly ask to get their team members on there. Why? They'll typically churn if they don't have their data into the system and like making actual changes to the business within the first month. In many cases, testing your business because this isn't the law of nature. But in many cases, the best way to get their data into the system is to get their other team members into the system, because often SaaS is bought by somebody in the organization but used by other people. So get the people who matter to the use of it into the system. It makes it much more likely that the data will come in and then you'll actually get that sale. If it's just the team leader who doesn't actually do time tracking, sets up a Freckle account, and then he forgets to tell his team, or he doesn't know how to tell them how to log into Freckle because he might not be a very technical person to begin with, then they probably don't get that sale at the end of the month. If, on the other hand, they're like, great, you got your account, copy paste in a list of all the email addresses of your team members and we'll send them invite codes right now, then that is much more likely to get done. And that's something, could talk about consulting clients here. They might not appreciate that. I'll say this, a consulting client, you've all heard of them, implemented the copy paste in email thing and tied it up to the end of their tour. And the change to the business from that one afternoon of coding exceeded the change to the business of entire years of their entire team working on the product. So it's not an obvious change, but it's an easy change for you to make. You should probably make it if you run a SaaS business. Explicitly ask to onboard the team. All right, here's my contact information. Again, I owe a deep debt of gratitude to other people who have helped me get my business to where it is. I love talking to people. If you ever have a question about anything, want to run an idea past me, please drop me an email. I will, can't promise a response back to all of them, but you'll never offend me or anything. Thanks very much.